I'm gonna start from where I left last time. Here's my marker. So a lot of times you're gonna use functions in Excel, and we spoke about built-in functions, which is we're gonna use for pretty much the first half of the semester before we learn how we're gonna create your own custom functions. Yes? It's small? Let me try something, maybe change the resolution a little bit. I think these are old projectors, so ouch. Let me try scaling up. Is it better? Slightly? Okay. Just one more. Okay. So we're gonna work on functions, and we saw last time the functions, the built-in functions in Excel are grouped per topic, like mathematics, you have the text, dates, and so on, financial, statistics, and so on. So we're gonna take a look at some of them, especially around text and dates formatting. But before that, we're gonna go over some basics. Let me start just with the function again. A function is, think about it as a black box with input, one or more inputs, and typically one output. And here are inputs. So depends on the type of the function. You provide the inputs and it'll give you specific output. For example, one function, or some of them actually could be no input. Let's say the random function. The rand function basically generates a number, random number between 0 and 1, actually 0.9999. So this doesn't require any input. This is one example. Another one related to date, we're gonna see it called now. So just we see it an example. So if you type in equals now, the current, because I put 2, gives you the current date and time. So there's no input is needed, but gives you the exact date and time right now. Or if you only need the date, there's another one called today. Just gives you the date. So there are uses for this. So we're gonna take a look at different functions, how to use them, and how we can use them together. But let me take a step back now for just go with, start with a few basic stuff in Excel. We're gonna look at the formula prefix, what we call a name box. I know we all use it. Some of you don't know it's called the name box. Cells and workbook. How many of you heard of the word or used the word workbook or worksheet? What's the difference between workbook and a worksheet?
A workbook contains multiple worksheets.
Pretty much is the Excel file. In Excel terms, it's called workbook. When you see the workbook means the whole Excel file you're working in. This is Excel's terminology. The worksheet, or we all use it as Excel sheet or the tab. That's called worksheet. So these are the two terminologies, workbook and worksheet. So the different cursor, I think most of you, they know how this works, except the fill handle. Most of you know this, we're going to use that a lot. How you can put the formula in one cell and you automatically using that, you apply it to everything below. Going to see how we're going to use the fill handle. Now this is a bit tricky. The operators, I know it's pretty basic math, but there is something called order of precedence. So plus, minus, multiplication, division, percentage is pretty straightforward. The caret actually is used as the power symbol, like 6 to the power of 2. This is how it's written, even though there is a function called power, where you provide two parameters, which is the base and the power. So you can use either this or that. This is actually the old way. Power was introduced in the last 2 or 3 versions of Excel. Excel dates back like 98 or even before. So in the older version of Excel, this is how the power used to be used. So it keeps backward compatibility. So you may find different ways to do the same thing, and this is for that reason. Okay. So let me ask you a question. What would be the answer to 6 plus 2 times 4? 14? Why?
32.
6 plus 2 times 4.
It follows the Bartman's rule.
So, one, give me an answer.
32.
32? Why?
14.
It's when does multiplication first and
Right.
addition.
So, multiplication takes precedence on addition. So, 2 times 4 is 8 plus 6 equals 14. So, I know that you heard of PEMDAS, right?
Yeah.
Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. This is the order of precedence, and Excel follows that. In many cases, I've seen formulas given the wrong answer because this was not properly done. You have the right arguments in the formula, just not properly distributed, or the parentheses were not put the right way. So this is about that. Oh, we have 14. I should even have this answer. So we go over an example, a practical example, right now. I can start with this. So this is the name cell, and this is the formula bar. So this is where you write your formula. And here's the name of the cell. So the cell is referenced by the column which is in letter and the rows is number. When you say H11, it's column H, row 11. We'll see later how actually you can change, not necessarily change the name, but make that like a specific name. Okay. So in a cell, we can put either static value, or we can put a formula, or we can put a formula that involves another cell. So this is 5 times the cell before. I can just click it, which is F5, and hit enter. So that will give me the formula. This is this cell times 5. So let's follow the logic here quickly and build this pay rate. So I have list of employees, how many hours they worked, how many overtime hours they worked, and what is the hourly rate. And assuming the overpay is 1.5 the rate. So what would be the regular pay? Equals what? I know it's going to be boring for some, but you're going to have to bear with me. You have to go through all that. So what do I do with the second one? Do the same? No. So this is the fill cursor I told you about. See this little cursor down here in the corner? I either drag it, and this will automatically update the cells, the reference. It will apply the same formula to the relative cells down. Or the other way is I simply just double click it. It will fill it down. This is a little bit more. So this gave me the regular pay. Let's learn the first function now. I need the total of the pay. I'll use sum. And this is typically arranged. I can either put them one after another. This can take multiple inputs, or simply I can just add the whole range from G5 to G14. And I close parentheses. So that gives me the total for regular pay. How much is the overtime pay? Times 1.5. I do the same. Same thing now with the sum. I simply just drag it sideways. And you can verify that. You click here, it shows you that this is the highlighted area. Now how much the total pay would be? And we'll do the same. So the total pay. And the tax, income tax is 25%. So here are different ways to do it. You can simply say the basic one is total pay times 0.25, right? And how much the net pay would be? Total minus tax. So you all can be accountants now. So these are the figures. Now back to the tax. What if the tax changes? Then in this case, I have to go back and change this in every single formula. So instead of putting 25% here, I'll reference this, right? What I do? Drag it down, right? Okay, let's see why. So the first one referenced J1. The second cell referenced J2. So we need to fix this. So there is a way to fix the reference to a specific cell as you change the formula, and that's typically by adding a $sign before the column, which to fix the column, and a $sign before the row to fix the row. Now if I do that, now it's good. Let me check the second one. It's always J1, always J1. Now instead of typing it, the other way to do it is when you have the cursor on that reference, you can just press F4. So there's 4 types of references, cell reference. The relative one, relative column, relative row, which is like this, just the name of the cell, J1. And then you press F4 again. Now this is absolute. No matter where you could put the formula, it's always gonna reference J1. You can reference just either the column or the row. So the second F4, now J $1. That means if you move it around, the column will change, the row will not change. One will not change, but J can change. So if you move it sideways, it is gonna reference K to the right. If you move it to the left, it's gonna reference I, but if you move it up and down, it's always gonna reference 1. Or it could be the other way around. The $J1 means if you move it up and down, it's gonna change, but if you move it left and right on the column side, it's not going to change. Always gonna reference J. We're gonna see a specific example on the next sheet. So this is basically how the formula works in the very basic way. Any question? Do I need to redo anything? I'll do that. Ask me right now. Anytime you don't get something, ask me immediately.
What did you say the other one was? Instead of putting the $sign?
F4. And again, that's on PC. I don't know what it is on Mac.
It's FN, F4.
It depends on your keyboard.
I have other keys set up.
Yeah, if you have the function lock activated, then you just F4 or function F4. Depends on your laptop. Mine is the same, but always I have the function, the F keys are the active ones. The other one, the one I have to, you can toggle that functionality around. Now, speaking of cell reference, we're gonna put a multiplication table together using just one formula in the first one, and we're gonna just use the handle, apply it automatically, sideways to the row and then down. So as you move up and down here, what changes? So here is a multiplication of 1 by 1, right? Here at B4 is a multiplication of A2 by B1. What's fixed in this row? B. So this will be, let's do the basic multiplication. This times this. So you notice if I move this sideways, this will be wrong, right? Because this blue has to be here. So, but let's start vertically. So as I move up and down, I need to fix B. And On the A side, why do I need to fix? Is it the row or the column? Think about it this way. Anywhere here, what do you need to reference on the top side? The row 2. Could be any column, but you always row 2. On this side, you need to fix column A, but could be any row. It has to move with the row, shouldn't move with the column. So it's actually not dollar, not B, it's actually the 2 that has to be fixed. On the A side, it's the A that has to be fixed. So basically, I'm multiplying column A by row 2. Let's see if this works. Let's try these. So this is A3 by B2. This is A3 by C2. And this is A4 by C2. So see when it moves sideways on this one, but always row 2. There you go. Always look as you move things around, which one is the fixed, which one is the dynamic, so you know how you're going to reference it. Yes?
So something for like a homework assignment or an exam, would you be testing it basically like understanding like what one formula, or I guess is it that skill that we need to know, or because obviously there's like
this could be part.
Okay,
put it this way. There wouldn't be a question exactly like that, but you may gonna need to use that.
Okay.
Just like in the tax example on the previous sheet. You're not gonna have a question just like this, so even though the first homework is gonna be relatively easy. Okay. Any question on the cell reference? Okay. Let's see here. Before I go do that, let's work a little bit on the random function. So sometimes you need to test some data, you need to generate some numbers randomly. So just type in random numbers, there's a random function that create these numbers for you. So as I mentioned, rand gives you random numbers up to as many decimals as you want between 0 and 1. And every time you refresh or change something, these random numbers will change. This function will get executed. But the limitation is that this random function always gives you a value between 0 and 1. What would you do if you need a value between 15 and 25? Before RandBetween. RandBetween is relatively new. Let's say you only have rand. What would you do? So think about it this way. Like in high school, on the numbers line, you have 0 and 1, right? So the value will be anywhere from here to here. What if you need it from 15 to 25? First, what's the length of this range? And how the length of this one? 1. So what do you need first? You need to expand it. So to get random between and 10 times 10. So this will give you random values between 0 and 10. Now, what do you do to make it between 15 and 25? You shift it. You add 15. So this, using this rat function, you get numbers between whatever values you need. Now, in the last, I think since Excel 2010 or 13, so there's a new function called, which is actually this exactly what it is, what we just did right here, called RandBetween. You specify the two numbers You want to create your random numbers between. So this we can say 15 and 25. So this is a function, you give you two inputs, the lower side of the range, the upper side, and gives you one random number. You notice something in the RandBetween, there is no decimal points. Let's say you want to generate random money values to test some formulas between 0 to 1,000 with two decimals. What would you do? So this is 0 and 1,000.
RandBetween plus rands.
Just one rand formula.
Okay. What's the question?
How can I generate numbers? RandBetween gives you integer values, no decimals. I need decimal points. I need decimal values. I need money values. Let's say I need $98.52. Yes.
Just multiply by 1,000.
Multiply by 1,000. It's already between 0 and 1,000.
No, you multiply the first rand this thing by.
Forget about this. I'm just using this formula. I want to put one formula here. I have RandBetween 0 and 1,000. What do I need to do to add to this formula to give me that? Yes.
I guess you could add all the functions by add to after the rand function.
Yes.
Multiply it with another rand function.
Just one rand function. Keep it simple.
A comma and two.
So here's what you do. You add two zeros here. Get a random between 0 and 100,000. And you divide the whole thing by 100. So instead of the random function will give you a dollar value, let it give you a cent value. And then divide by 100 to get the dollar value. So this is the difference between rand and RandBetween. RandBetween always gives you integer. So you need to know the limitation of each one. I know it's very tempting to use RandBetween, but sometimes you notice or you miss the decimal points, and that could be critical to your function. Yeah. Okay. Any question on this? Okay. So these are some, you know what, let me add two more functions here on the numbers. Okay, and what I will do, leave it. So the int function is the integer. So every number has the integer part, has a decimal part. Int actually only returns the integer part of it. So if you notice row 9, for example, the number is 238.32. The integer part of that is 238. In case you need this type of functionality, you know it's there.
So it doesn't
Yeah.
round up.
It doesn't round, no. For rounding, there is another function for rounding. We'll get to that later. There's like a basic round function, and there's a round up and a round down. Let me use this. Sure I didn't miss anything here. So now we'll work on few text functions. The one we saw last time is the len, gives you the length of text, and left and right functions, mid and find. I'm going to use example of phone numbers. So US phone numbers is 10 digits, 3 digits area code, 7 digits phone number. So if we're going to randomly create those. This is didn't execute because the type is text. We'll get to those later. So these are random phone numbers. They're not technically accurate because there's no area code 125. But let's say this is the case. Now, how can I get the area code from this phone number? I have a list of phone numbers. The area code in US phone numbers is the first 3 digits from the left. So for that purpose, I use the left function. Left of which text? This one in I5. How many characters from the left? 3. Excuse me, the area code. The second 3 digits, technically called the PBX number. So back in the days in landlines, neighbors, phone numbers in the same neighborhood used to have the same first 3 digits. The last 4 usually different. So we'll skip that a little bit. Let's go from the right. The right 4 digits are, can use the right function, same thing. Which number? This one. How many? 4. Now, the mid will have more parameters. I need to specify which text and when to start because I need to extract section from the middle. When to start and for how long. So I need a position and the length of the character. So this will equal mid of this starting at which character? The 4th. For how long? 3. What I will do here, instead of these keep cycling and changing, I'm gonna copy. So right now you see there's a formula. I need to paste just the values. You notice up here, there's no more formula. I got the output of that function, now that's the value of that cell. And I lost the function. So we'll see later how where this is actually can be useful besides this situation. Okay. Now let's say we're going to put this phone number together but in a properly formatted way, which is area code between parentheses, space, 3 numbers, dash, 4 numbers. There's 2 different ways to do it. I'm going to call this CONCAT 1 and 2. So the same way or similar to the way you can slice a text, you can put different text back together. And that by using the ampersand symbol. So we can J5 and K5. Enter. So this is the output. Now, what if I need to put a static text in between? So all static text has to be between double quotes. So open parentheses, close double quotes, and then end. Now I need a closing one. Double quotes, closing, space, close, end. So we have 4 pieces here. 2 static parts and 2 dynamics, which are cell references. So I'm adding an opening parentheses to J5, and then on the other end I have a closing parentheses and a space. This could be not necessarily one character, it could be anything. And then K5.
Could you
What
try
did
that
you
again?
just do?
So I want you to be able to decipher that formula.
What are you trying to do here?
I need to re-put the phone number, but format it with
The same. Oh, wait,
With the
I-
parentheses, yes.
Okay.
You're gonna see that, and I don't know how many of you work with different like data sources, data analytics. When you get data from different sources, could be HR, whatever, phone numbers, you'll see magic there. How phone numbers are inconsistent in formatting, yeah, and some of them have parentheses, some of don't. So typically, to go around that problem, you clean the phone number from all symbols just to strip down version like this, and then you recompose it in one consistent way. Yes, a question?
My question was the second parenthesis, second ampersand, is that for the parenthesis, closing parenthesis, or for the file? Because in the initial format, you have opened the parenthesis, then and use an ampersand.
Okay, so this is the first character.
Okay.
This is static. That's why the parentheses, I couldn't put, Excel will give me error if I just put a parentheses like these, like J5, close parentheses. It doesn't work this way. It's not going to know that parentheses, I mean, has to be displayed. So I have to put the parentheses between double quotes.
Okay.
And then I have to attach it to J5 after that. And then after J5, I need to attach ampersand. I need to add the other to close it, and then add the K5 after that. So it's 4 pieces: parentheses, J5, closing parentheses and space, then K5. So these are the fixed part. The one between parentheses are the fixed part. This one and this one. And they're all glued together with the ampersand sign. Yes?
I don't know how it'll be useful, but hypothetically, can you do that if there were texts, there are letters in each Excel?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be numbers. Could be anything. Could be names, could be whatever. I do that sometimes when I have, let's say, list of names, which is they sort it like last, comma, first. I need to split that and then put them back together, first, last. And this is what you do. They're text. Could be any value. It doesn't have to be a number. Okay, yes?
Why aren't you putting commas or like the spaces in the word and? Is that, I guess, work as a comma usually just split up?
The space you mean between before and after the ampersand?
Yeah.
If you put the ampersand here, you know, Excel's pretty tricky. If you do that, actually this one didn't really complain much. Typically, sometimes Excel will complain about that. But this one I did not. But it's easier just to read, just to keep some spacing out.
But you don't need to put commas. Is commas only strictly if you're like connecting cells?
Comma is only use it within the function when you do the input the function to separate different inputs. Okay. So now we still need the last piece. What do we need to put after the last, before the last 4 digits? In the middle of the phone number, we have a dash, right? So this dash, and then we add the last part. 24. And then double click it, we'll apply here. The other way, kind of newly supported function, you can simply use the CONCAT function. It's going to be the same thing. This basically will replace the ampersand symbol. So you need to say this is the first one is the open parentheses, comma, area code, comma, what comes after that, closing parentheses, space, text 4 is K5, after that we have a dash, right? And after that we have this, and we close the parentheses. CONCAT can have as many inputs as you want.
So that just prevents you putting in the ampersand.
Yeah, it's just a different way to do it, but it's the same logic. You need to put them in the right sequence. So this is using the CONCAT function. This is just using the ampersand. Okay. Okay. Any question on this? This is really important to understand how to put stuff together because you're going to use this a lot.
Trying to make the parentheses stay, right?
Right.
But why is there so many apostrophes?
The ampersand?
Yeah.
This is basically the symbol that glues these different pieces together. Tell Excel, treat these as one text. This is the whole value.
But in the first one.
In this one.
You put it before, you put it after, and then you put it before you get it.
So what do I start with? What's the first thing you start in the format? They all start with the parentheses,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I did.
Oh, I get it.
So start with the parentheses,
Yeah.
and then after the parentheses comes the value from J5.
Okay.
After that, I have to close the parentheses. After that comes the value from K5. Right. So now let's say which four numbers has the number 7. We'll use the find function. Find text, what text? We need to do find 7. You need to put that between double quotes, and within what text? Within this number. Close. What does this tell me? Second digit here it means what? Does not exist. There's no return value. This is the 4th digit, 6th, 8th, and this is always the first occurrence. Could be more than 1 7 there. So it tells you which one. And typically, if your formula may return some of these like invalid values, there is a way around it, not to display this. You can use a function. This is what we're going to use. You can use a function within a function. Let me put this find clean. So I'm going to take this output and make it as input to another function. And if there's no value, it will show me blank or dash or something. So the function called ifError, it takes input 2 values. The value you're trying to calculate and what do you want to display in case there is error. So I'll take this value, and if it has error, I want to show nothing, which is empty double quotes, opening, closing. So this will show nothing. Or, hold on, let's just start with dash. So this will make your sheet look clean. There's nothing wrong if your function returns invalid value, because you don't always get a valid return. But if there is a chance, then you can use ifError. Yes?
I have a question. For the 9th row
Okay.
and I column, there are 2 7s. And for the find function, it is just...
The first one.
No, only the first one.
It gives you the first occurrence. So there's an optional input in find. Actually, this is a good point here I want to mention. You notice when you type the function, it gives you the input parameters. So this says find text is the first one. The first parameter is the text is trying to find. The second input is within which text. And the third, if the parameter is between square brackets, that means it's optional. If it's not, that means you have to provide the input. The function will not work if you don't provide at least 2. You need to tell the find function what are you trying to find where. It's not going to work with just one of these 2. You have to provide 2. The third one is optional, called the start num. You can tell the function to look for number 7 starting which position. By default is 1. If you don't provide that, it's going to start from the beginning. But you can tell the function find number 7 after the third. So it will ignore 1, 2, and 3 if it's there. So this is the key. Let me see if I can make this slightly better. It's time for the school to get better projectors. These are really low res. 1024, God's sake. Let's see how this works. Is it better? Yeah, sadly. This is like 1998. So you see here the first parameter, find text, within text, and start number because between square brackets, it's optional. Yes.
So what if there's multiple instances of that number that you're looking for? What it doesn't tell you, it only tells you the first.
It only tell you the first one.
Okay. There's no way to get it to tell you. Like,
you need to create your own functions for that. You will get to that. That will be your assignment actually.
Can you please go back to if error?
So I
Yeah.
can see it.
We'll do that, but let me just give an example here. So let's say this function I want to look after the third. Now it gives me an A. Okay, there's no 7 after the third position. Okay. Now, if error, actually, I'm sorry, one more thing. If you need help on a function, what you do, you click this function button here, and this gives you a little bit more explanation. This is how you can put the parameters here. So this will tell you this return the starting position of the one string with another text string. And it tells you it's case sensitive. So Excel gives you all the input needed. And if you need more help, you click the link, takes you to the Office website with more examples about specifically this function.
The case sensitive is pertaining to letters. If it's,
Excuse me?
the case sensitive is pertaining to letters.
Yes. So same thing with if error here. Returns value if error, which is the second one, if the expression is an error and the value of the expression itself. Otherwise, value is any date, is any value expression or reference. So I already provided these. How to put these in one function together instead of having 2 columns? So let's do a third column. Find, combine. So this is the final one. So what we have here, we have the find function has 2 inputs, right? Provides one input, which in turn, this is if error, and provides another input, right? Output, correct? So the output of this, which is in this case 05, feeds into if error. I'll put it this way. So find has 2 inputs. One is static 7. The other one is dynamic, which is I5. And the output is in 05, right? And then that feeds into, if error uses this, the output of this previous function. And if it's error, it gives you dash. Otherwise, it just shows that value. To see how the dependency from one cell to another, on this one, you can trace precedence. So it tells you that this is based on the value from that cell. And this one is based on this. So you can see the impact. So if you change the first one, it's going to impact these 2. Or the opposite, you can see which other cells depend on this. You can do trace dependent. So if you want to change something and you're not sure which formula you're going to break or what's going to impact, you can use that. Now to combine them together, let's start from scratch. Equal if error of what? The value here we said is the input is the output of find. So we need to put find in there. So find what? 7 within I5 and close that. So that's the first parameter, that's the value. And if there's error, do what? Put a dash, close it. And we apply that. Got a question? Okay. Is it clear? Because actually mid is the same thing. Mid is the combination of left and right, if you think about it. So in this one, we took mid of 4 by 3, right? So we're taking the first 7 of that. Let's see, left plus right. So there's another way for the left. So if we took 4 by 3, 7, if we took the left 7, and then we took the right of 3 right of that, right of these three, I think I missed. Not 7, 6. I'm sorry. So you end up with the same thing. So this is how Excel evolves from one release to another. There is a lot of like commonly used combination functions that create a third one out of that just to keep it simple for the user. So the user doesn't have to always put complex formulas like this. I'm going to delete that so it doesn't confuse you. But that's how it is. So you're always going to run into a situation we're going to use function. And this is always recommended to do this way. Break it up into different columns. This one, and then put them together. So another way to do it, keep it simple. Once you get to this point, what you do, copy this as it is. And now O2 is what? So what you do, go to O2, copy this formula, and go back here. Hold on, I made a mistake. Let me do that again. Oh, escape. This one reference 05, right? So I go to 05, I copy the formula from 05 and just replace it. This will give me the same result, so you don't have to think much about it. So if you do it step by step, when you get to the final, just start putting them inside each other. Any question on this? You all got it? Should I pick one randomly? No? Okay. So let's see what's left here. Did these between day function here. Okay. So you're gonna have fun with the dates. So see, this is what I hate, slow resolution. Had another one here, I think. This one, yes. Actually, before I do that, let me go back a little bit here just to the numbers formatting. So you notice, a lot of you know, in Excel you have different way to format numbers. Especially if it's money. Let's start with the money part. By default, if you click a number, let's make these back general, that's how they would be initially. And let's say highlight these and say these are account. So this will automatically give you a dollar sign. It will give you 2 decimal points for the cents. Other currency, of course, support it. For those who work for international companies and receive reports from their international offices, I think that they've seen the situation where the formatting is different. So in the US, for example, you say it's 48.22, right? And it's point. This is the decimal separator. In France, for example, and let's say even the thousand, let's say it's 1,048. So the comma is the thousand separators. In France, it's quite the opposite. In France, will be written 1 space 048, comma 22. And probably other countries could be either one or slightly different. So Excel helps you put these in the right format. So for numbers, you have accounting, you can specify how many decimal numbers, 1, 2, 3. If you're doing, let's say, lab work, you have some scientific values. It doesn't have to be money, could be simply a number. Could be a number with 5 decimals. The negative presentation could be parentheses, which is standard for accounting, or simply just a negative value. So you need to select how you're going to represent your negative value. You can specify you want to use the thousand separators or not. Or it could be currency, so you need to specify. You can pick by either the country name or by the currency code. Let's say GBP. Where's the British pound? So this is how the British pound is presented with 3 decimals. These 2 buttons you can toggle between how many decimal points left or right. So this is a trivia question. Do you know why GBP is the British symbol for the British pound? Great Britain pound. Great British pound, yes. So let's take this back to US dollars. So if you want to customize it, let me give you the root of that. Go to numbers formatting and you do customs. It's a bit more complicated. Just let's simplify it. We're gonna continue with next class about how you can do the masking, the custom formatting. You can create your own custom format. When you create a mask, or how the format used to be, the pound symbol represents numbers. The 0.00 means even if there is no decimal point, show 00. The alternative to that, I can just leave it like that. And point, pound. I mean, if there's decimal, it will show it. If there is none, it will not show it. I can just put 1 decimal point, just 1 0 if any, and it will round it if there's more. So back to the phone number. Which one's out? Actually, now we're going to ask why did we go through all that to format it this way. You can simply select this or select all of these and select special US phone number. And it's okay. But you'll notice something. What you see here is not what you see here. So every cell has 2 characteristics, the value and the text. The value is the actual underlying value, which is you're going to see up there. The text is how you're showing it. So you may end up with a number, let's say, give a quick example, 56.67, right? And I can select not to show any decimal point. So you see 57. It's actually rounded because I chose not to show any decimal point, but the actual value is 56 times 57. And if I multiply, actually put it here, 1/8. And if I multiply this by 2, oops, equals 2 times, and let me round this up, 14, okay, this time works. Actually, yeah. So sometimes you're going to see something like this. 57 times 2 is 114. Why am I seeing 113 there? Because what's getting multiplied by 2 is not 57, is the value. So always pay attention between the format and the actual value of the cell. In this case, if I do copy and paste value, the text and the value match. This is not a number. This is now a text, a formatted text. That's the value. So that's the difference. Depends what's your situation. You may want this or you may want that. For example, on this one, I can perform mathematical operations, arithmetics. I can multiply by 2. I can divide. It's a number, right? On this one, I cannot. Is it clear? The difference between the value and the text. Back to this, actually. If I select phone number and customs, let me simplify it. That's what we did. It tells Excel, put a parentheses and put the first 3 digits, put parentheses after that, space, put the next 3, dash, and put the next 4. You can do the same, for example, with social security numbers. You can just type in the 9 digits and Excel will properly format it. So let's pick same function, but we're going to be 1 less digit. How long is the SSN number? 9 digits? Let's say 9 digits, and then copy, paste as values. I don't need the function anymore. And let's format these as special social security number. Actually, then you can see it. So why is this time zeros, not pounds? I mean, if it's less than 8, if less than 9 digits, it's going to add zeros. So it's always 9 digits. This is for fixed width or fixed length number. So always has to be 9 digits. I'll show you the difference. So if we hit OK, so see the value is this. So if I just enter 7 digits and hit enter, it pads it with zeros. So it's always 9. If I change that format into pound dash pound dash pound, oops. See, it trims it because it's not 9 digits. If I type 2 more digits, it will do it. I think I missed something there. Hold on, in the formatting. One more. So if I don't enter 9 digits, it's going to trim it. It's not going to put 0. Now I'm going to apply the formatting of this one. Copy format, put it here. So zeros means it's going to pad it if the length is less than the total. Yes?
Is it correct that we can replace the pound sign with 0 and it will still do the same function?
It will do it if the length is always 9. Zeros will see the difference. If it's less than 9, then it will pad zeros. Yes?
2 questions. For this one, I put the zeros in the beginning. Does it matter where it does it? Is it just an instant to put the zeros in the front?
Depends what value you're looking at. If you need the 0 just for the visual, sometimes you need that, so when you compare the numbers, they're all the same width. If the 0 is part of the actual value, you may want to actually force it there, and we'll give another example in a minute. So let's say if I put 0 here, it's not going to make any difference, but you notice still if you put 0 on the left, it's not going to save it because the number 0 on the left is meaningless. So typically, SSN, social security number, is saved as a text, not as a number. So the 0 will be simply a character, just a character in the number. To do that, you select the text format. Once it's text format, then you can put 009 and they will stick. If your value starts with zeros and you need the zeros, could be account numbers, could be any values that the 0 is valid, then you cannot save this as a number. Has to be a text value. Another big example, and it's usually troublesome, is the zip code. And in my experience, every time I work with developers in California, I always have this problem. They save the zip code as a number because their zip code starts with 9. Unlike in the Northeast, we have zip code start with 0 between Mass, Connecticut, New Jersey, all the Northeast except New York. The number 1 starts with New York. So all New England, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, they all start with 0. So if you try to save 5, that's what's going to happen. But you know the zip code is 5 digits. So you change this to a text. And Excel will complain. It was like, hey, it seems you saved the number as text, and it's just tell them ignore. So anytime you see that, like if you work for a bank, accounts sometimes start with 0 and they want to see that zeros in the account. And the reason is because on their list, all they count, let's say it's 10 digits. They want to see 10 digits, even if the length of the actual account is not 10 digits, they want it padded with zeros. So that's when you have to think, do you want to just make it look like it's padded, or you want to have the 0 part of the actual value? So it's case by case basis. So this is the difference between number formatting. One cool trick actually on this side. If you want to make a list of items with Excel, let's say you want to sequence numbers, what do? You want to say 15. You put 1, 2, and simply drag it. Excel knows you're trying to do a sequential numbers. And these are not formulas, it's just like the value is there. Same thing applies to days. Monday. Actually, I think you don't even need to put the second one. Yeah. Just put Monday, and I just put Monday, just then copy, paste. You do that. This also works for the month, Jan, and then December. What was that?
For dates as well, for like 1,
For if you just put 1, I think it's going to repeat 1, but you need to put the second, so it gives it like a guide for the sequence. Then yeah, you can do that. So these are like easy tricks, makes your life a little bit easier.